Let's talk about how we translate functions. Now, function translations have to do with taking a graph and sliding it around our coordinate system, either vertically or horizontally, or both. Now, I've chosen to use the world's simplest parabola here, x squared. So I'm not multiplying it by anything, it's just x squared. And you can see I've graphed it here in Desmos. Now, if I were to just add something, let's just add 3. There it is. So it took my parabola and just shifted the vertex up 3 units. So if I change that to like a 5, let's slide it down. Like that. You can see that whatever I add or subtract is the shift up or down. So let's be a little general here. I'm going to put an A and add a little slider. And you see if A is 1, it's x squared minus 1. It shifts down 1. And I can change that. I can subtract more and more. All that adding or subtracting does is just shift my graph up or down. And it shifts it down by exactly what you would expect. You know, if it's x squared minus 2, I'm down 2 units. If it's x squared plus 4, it's up 4 units. So that's our first kinds of translation, an addition or subtraction of my function. Now let me change this a little bit. Let me go in here and add some parentheses. And I'm going to put a minus 2. Now what you see here is that I have shifted my parabola that used to be right at 0, 0 to the right 2 units, which seems odd because you're subtracting 2. If I were to subtract 5, you see I've moved it positive 5 units. Let me explain that real quick. When it was just x squared, if I plug in 0 for x, 0 squared is 0. So my x is 0 and my y is 0. But when I put a minus 5 like that, now in order to get 0 as my output, in order to get like 0 as my y value, I need x to be 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0, 0 squared is 0. So it has to do really with if you know what the output is, how does the x value have to kind of change in order to get that output? In this case, it's always the opposite. So when I put a minus 5, I'm actually moving to the right, positive 5 units. Even though it feels like you should be moving negative, it has to do with, if I know the output, how does the x value change? Okay, so let's change this a little bit. Let's say like, okay, what if it's minus 3? So you see it moved 3 units. So hopefully it makes sense. If I put a plus, it shifts the negative direction. Like that. So again, if I could just add a letter there and add a slider and say, if that thing moves, it's like that. And if it's adding a number, it moves to the left. If it's subtracting a number, it moves to the right. So here I have a graph of the absolute value of x. F is equal to the absolute value. If you haven't seen this before, these two vertical lines mean the absolute value. Basically, it takes every positive number and returns the same number, and it takes every negative number and returns the positive version. So for example, when I say x is negative 2, the output is positive 2. When x is negative 3, positive 3 is the output. So it just removes the negative. Let's say that I translated this. I took this function and I said I'm going to do the absolute value of x minus 2 minus 3, like that. And what would that graph look like? Well, let's just analyze real quick what these things do. This minus 3 at the end is going to shift my graph down 3 units. This minus 2 right inside that absolute value, remember, this is always kind of the opposite. So even though it's a minus, it's going to move me in the positive direction 2 units. So my absolute value graph is going to move 2 units to the right and 3 units down. Let's use a different color here. Like this. Let's do another example. Let's say this time we had our absolute value graph and we did the absolute value of x plus 1 and then plus 4, like that. So again, analyzing what these things do, just adding or subtracting at the end, this will take us up 4 units. And it's x plus 1, but inside that absolute value, so it does the opposite direction. It takes me back 1. So just thinking about where it started, it's going to go back 1 unit and up 4 units to here. So it's going to look like, I don't have a lot of room to draw it, but it's going to look like that. If this video helped you understanding translations, please like and subscribe for more math help.